Hello everyone, alecandstuff here. I figured since we are in what I call the dry period for game releases, for obvious reasons, I thought it would be fun to list off and discuss my personal top 10 games I'm excited to play this year in the form of a mini-series in which I'll be posting one video every Saturday and Sunday until we reach the end. Check below in the description of this video for a link to the playlist where you can watch each video as it's released until we get to number 1. So let's get things started.
For some, discovering the secrets of the world is the only way to live.
Lara Croft returns again in a direct sequel to 2013's Tomb Raider reboot, which was fantastic by the way. Rise of the Tomb Raider seems to be taking on the focus that its predecessor had in mind, and that is going back to the roots of the franchise, putting the tomb back in Tomb Raider. Rise of the Tomb Raider is looking to improve on its predecessor, and in almost every way. For example, 2013's iteration featured a salvage system for Lara's gear and skills that required the player to scavenge around the environment for salvage, which can then be spent at campsites to upgrade things like Lara's weapons and skills. In Rise of the Tomb Raider, Crystal Dynamics have decided to take a different approach and include a brand new weapon crafting system that has the player searching for and scavenging for materials from things like plants and animals, and using them to craft new weapons to use in combat. Speaking of combat, that is seeing some changes too in the form of multiple ways in which a player can approach a situation. For example, Lara can now confuse her enemies using the environment around her, hide behind bushes or trees, and in some cases avoid combat altogether by climbing trees or traveling across rooftops. Now, earlier I mentioned that there's a heavy focus on putting the tomb back in Tomb Raider with the upcoming release. Well, the team at Crystal Dynamics seem to be taking that quite literally this time around with the addition of, you guessed it, more tombs. What I mean by this is that the developers have stated that they are aiming to reward the player for exploring off the beaten path. In 2013's title, this was present, but there was just some instances where the amount of risk and exploration needed to get to a certain area was not worth the effort due to just how little the reward was. Crystal Dynamics seem to have realized this and are looking to amend this by adding a higher risk-reward system in the new game. Another highlight from 2013's iteration was the atmosphere. Just walking around the fictional Lost Island was a pleasure because every scene was just amazing to look at. Surprisingly enough, Rise of the Tomb Raider is improving on this type of immersion as well in the form of dynamic environments. What we know about this so far is that the in-game environments will include a weather system, as well as a day and night cycle, that change the type of weather the player encounters during their playtime. This affects more than just scenery though, as it's been confirmed that depending on what the weather conditions are like, different kinds of animals appear that can be salvaged for weapon crafting, as well as the fact that enemies will spawn in different quantities. It's really crazy how all of these changes can make me feel so nostalgic about the game's roots. At the heart, despite all the game's changes and improvements, it's still all about rope swinging, running across collapsing bridges, and most of all, tomb raiding. The new Rise of the Tomb Raider is more cinematic, more fleshed out, and looking to be another amazing adventure for Lara Croft and players alike. All things considered, it's no wonder that Rise of the Tomb Raider managed to climb its way to number 6 on our list. Excited I've been about it ever since we saw it. Wow, this was not present in Gears of War 1, and I don't understand the purpose of its inclusion here. To me, Gears of War 1 separated itself from other shooters on the platform by having a much higher